Well, welcome to the Illinois Legislative Latino Caucus. I'm Alba Mendiola. I'm a reporter for Telemundo Chicago, and I'm going to be the moderator for this panel today. I'm very happy to be invited to do it for the second time. This town hall meeting has always been an important conclusion of this conference program. The presenters, panelists, and speakers earlier today have described how the impressive growth in the number of the Latinos in Illinois has impacted economic, educational, immigration, healthcare, and social and human services policies and institutions. Progress has been made, but there is still much to be done. The town hall meeting is an important part of the establishment of an agenda that your representatives are developing for the next decade. And now, this is how it's going to work. We have two objectives. First, we would like each of the legislators to tell us what have they done in the past year and something they have introduced and what is their agenda for the future for the next 10 years. But first, I would like just to introduce all the panelists. We have Senator Iris Martinez, Representative Cynthia Soto, Representative Fred Crespo, Representative Tony Berrios, Representative Lisa Hernandez, and Senator Martin Sandoval. Big applause for them. Okay, well, we're going to start from here. I would like to leave a little bit more time so people can ask questions too, and I want to make clear that we are also being cablecast live on CAN TV. This is the channel 27, and it's streaming live at cantv.org/watch. So it's important also to promote all the community television that is out there for the people who really are interested in this kind of events. So I would like to start with Senator Iris Martinez. Senator, can you tell us first, and we're going to keep it in 2-minute time because we don't have much time. What are been the proposals you have done in this year, and what is going to be for the future in your district?
Thank you very much. And first and foremost, I just want to thank everyone for coming here today. I think it's been a great day so far. The idea of us getting together on an annual basis to talk about all the important issues in our community really matters to us because it helps us think about what we're doing for next year. It's funny because when you ask the question, what have you done? I think, oh my God, I got so many bills, I don't even know where to even begin. I think a couple of the bills that I really have been very honored that I've worked on with so many was the charity care bill, where right now we, mandating some of the hospitals to make sure that they have charity care for our Latinos. Because I think that as the Affordable Care Act gets, really working, in the past, we have to make sure that no one's turned away from an emergency room because of their status in this country, in the state. So that's been one of the bills that I've really worked on that I can say I take great pride. Another bill that I think that matters a lot to me deals with human trafficking. I think that that's something that's going on, still going on. It's real quiet. We don't talk about it too much. But we're going to continue to work in the future about that. And I know that many of us here work on the bills that really matter as a caucus. As you can see, we gave you the driver's license bill that was very important to us in the past, the in-state tuition, things that really matter in the Latino community. So, we work collectively, individually, and also as a caucus. And I'm very proud of that because, you know what, we have a very good team, 15 members thus far, and growing. Thank you.
Good. You stay in the 2-minute range. That's good.
I'm good.
All right. Now, Representative Cynthia Soto, can you tell us what the plans for the futures are for you?
Yes. In the past, I've introduced some education bills, and that's something that I'm looking at for the new year, too, some more education bills. So, again, like Senator Martinez mentioned, we not only pass our bills, we sponsor each other's bills and also lobby legislators. So if someone has a better relationship with someone else or maybe can't catch up with them, then we kind of share that we will help each other and try to lobby to get some support. But yes, we have a lot of disparities, so those are kind of the bills that we introduce, trying to make a difference when it comes to parity in our state. There's a lot of issues that we need to address, and I know that's something that I want to do. And I think I even heard Representative Acevedo mention it's a transplant. I think transplants are very important, I mean, for undocumented residents. It's very important that if they're going to dialysis, it's cheaper to just do a transplant, and that saves the state a lot of money. So that's one of the bills that I will be introducing, that I will be passing over to Senator Martinez, because we usually do something like that. So I'm looking forward to for the new legislation, and again, it'll be something that will help our communities, not only for Latinos, for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Representative Hernandez.
Thank you. I want to just first start with just thanking all who have attended and participated in this 11th annual conference. It's extremely important to hear what you have to say because that is part of what helps us put the agenda for the upcoming session. So thank you, and please, please, please engage, ask the questions, and offer your concerns and suggestions. I am in my 7th year, and I think from the very get-go, I don't think it did happen. The very first bill that I passed had to do with early childhood. It was actually the extension of the child care eligibility. So from the very get-go, I have been very conscious on the early childhood issue that we need to bring more dollars. So I do sit on 2 appropriation committees, one being the elementary educational, and the other one being the Human Services Committee. So 2 areas that I'm very, very passionate about and have stayed on those committees ever since the beginning. So some of the pieces of legislation have a lot to do with basic human rights, really, in the end, trying to just bring a better quality of life, whether it's through education, health, or even just when it comes down to just things like consumer protections, how it affects our communities. So I'm very focused with the individuals that I represent, so much of the bills have to do, and believe it or not, derive from my district. One good example I will give you, that because of some of the committees and conversation that took place, what came to my attention was about hoarding. Now everybody knows what hoarding is now, but back then the problem was that our seniors there was a problem in the district. They were finding too many seniors in this situation of hoarding, and they did not know how to direct service to these individuals. So it started off with just defining what hoarding is. So I'm just giving you an example of just one of many of the bills. You're right, Senator Martinez, there's just too many. It's from education to labor to healthcare issues, but all focus on how it helps our communities get ahead.
Thank you. Representative Fred Crespo.
Thank you. Y gracias a todos por venir a este evento esta tarde. My name is Fred Crespo, and I represent the suburbs, Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates, Streamwood, Hanover Park, Elgin, and Bartlett. And I'm proud to say I think I'm the first Latino minority ever elected from a non-Latino district, which goes to show everybody that, we can compete at any level. We just don't need special help. It does help, but we can compete at this generation, especially the younger kids, the younger folks can compete at any level. The committees that I have several committees. I chair the Appropriations Committee in the House for General Services, and I've been chairing now for 3 years. It's funny how I thought 3 years ago when I was calling the governor's office, all the other constitutional officers, they were calling me right away. They were calling me back right away. I thought it was because I was important, and it wasn't. It's because I control the money, and obviously they're very concerned about that. There's so many issues that we need to be concerned about, and the thing I'd like to talk, hopefully today, a little bit is about political muscle. We need to get together, identify things that are important to the Latino community. We have done that. When you look at this year alone, we passed the same-sex bill. And how that happened? Political muscle. We passed another important bill for all of us in our community, which is the driver's licenses for undocumented. How that happened? Political muscle. So it goes to show you where there's a will, there's a way. We just need a pit bull attitude that we just have to hang on and make sure things happen. Aside from immigration issues that we all care about, there are other important issues that impact our Latino community. One is we have safety net hospitals. These are hospitals that cater mostly to Latinos in the area. Sometimes we forget about them, and they're not funded adequately, which means that the services our Latino community gets is not the best. We have issues with high school dropout, a very important issue. And unfortunately, you would think that after all these years, we should see some improvement there, but we don't. And let me tell you, folks, I know people in Chicago say, well, our public school system in Chicago is not doing a good job. But let me tell you, I have the largest high school district in the state of Illinois, School District 211. The largest school unit after Chicago, the Elgin School District. So in the suburbs, we have funding, we have money. But guess what? I'm still seeing the same issues with dropout rates in the suburbs that I see in Chicago. I see the same issues with teenage pregnancy that impacts our communities still today in Chicago as well as in the suburbs. So we need to do a better job in identifying the issues. We need to work together. Earlier today, I forgot a young man who got an award. He was here for his parents, and he mentioned the ability of this generation to get into college. Folks, that is not enough. It's not just the experience of making it to college. You need to graduate. We need to find a way to make sure that children, young men and women graduate when they go to college. Otherwise, what happens is they go to college, a great experience, they leave college with big debt because of the loans they get. The monetary award program that the governor talked about too, we don't have enough money, so we're putting that money into education, but we're not getting a good return. I can go on and on. So there's so many issues that we need to talk about. The key thing is we need that political muscle. We need to work together and not let go until we see an improvement there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Representative Tony Barrios.
No.
Okay. You can use the other one.
Maybe it doesn't work. Hello? Nope. All right, I'll take this one. That works. The light's on. Now it is. Okay. This one's fine. Yes, thank you very, very much for coming out today. I love that so many of you stayed for this town hall. It is a long day, but it is because of you that we host this conference so that we can bring the information, resources, and hear from you so that we know what we need to be fighting for in Springfield. My colleagues have already talked about some of the bigger ticket items that we have worked on. And the TVDL was huge, the temporary visitor's driver's license. Now, because so many people fought for that issue, what we're doing is hosting outreaches. Let's tell people what we passed and share that information with them. This is one outlet where we can do it, but we also host these events in our offices. We want to make sure that we're bringing the resources to our communities. Also supporting social services. When it comes to the budget, I know we had some of my members talk about the dollars that go into different line items and for them being on appropriations, but we have to make sure that we are hearing from you that you need the money. That way we know when we are in Springfield, we're saying, hey, look, no, you can't leave our community behind. We're here, we're staying, and we need the money to make sure we can provide for our constituents. So I want to thank you for, as Representative Crespo said, political muscle. Make sure you're out there, you're letting us know, and we will continue to fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Senator Martín Sandoval.
Sí, buenas tardes. Soy el senador Martín Sandoval. Represento el suroeste de la ciudad de Chicago y los primeros suburbios Cicero, Berwyn, Stickney y otros 8 más nuevos suburbios. Sí, gracias. Un aplauso, ¿verdad?
Tiene porra.
I've had the pleasure of being a state senator for the last decade. I arrived to the Illinois Senate with la primera senadora latina, Iris Martinez, and it's been a pleasure and an honor serving all of you. It's tough to pick out, specific pieces of legislation or issues that we've all been successful at, but I will tell you this before I just go through a couple of them, that I cannot do anything I have been able to deliver for my district on the southwest side of Chicago in suburban Cook without support of many of my colleagues here at this table. There's not one bill, there's not one piece of capital that I can deliver for my district without the votes of everyone here at this table. I'd like to give them all a round of applause. Right. When I was elected, the biggest issue in my district on the southwest side of Chicago around Gates Park, Midway Airport, West Lawn, was the overcrowding of our schools. There were not enough classrooms for our children on the southwest side of Chicago. 3,000 children were being bussed out of the southwest side of Chicago to other neighborhoods because there wasn't a classroom in our neighborhood. That has changed. I have been very successful with the help of my colleagues to build over 10 schools in my district over the last decade. Sandoval, Hernandez, Solorio, Veterans Memorial High Schools, all three of them, and most recently the UNO Charter Soccer Academy and the UNO Charter High School. We have relieved the overcrowding on the southwest side of Chicago. No more children are being bussed out of our communities, and every children, it's the guarantee that you have a classroom and a school in your neighborhood where you live. That is huge change of quality of life for the children on our south side of Chicago. I've also prided myself on being one who is focused on bringing bricks and mortar to our communities. Every single park on the southwest side of Chicago has changed over the last 10 years, from soccer fields to AstroTurf to aquatic pools to new gymnasiums, all throughout the southwest side of Chicago. I can be very proud that in all corners of my district, our parks are looking significantly better than in most parts of the city. I am very proud of that, and we've done that with support of the state of Illinois and your support. I think the challenges before us are plenty. It's an historic moment. They said that the 70s and the 80s was the era of the Latinos. They said the 90s was the era of the Latinos. They said the 2000, the new century was new era of the Latinos. Well, you know what? We have arrived, and it is time to make some huge impacts. It's an electoral year again. We're about to elect a new governor. And you know what? College is less affordable and less accessible to Latinos today. You know what? Less Latinos are being employed by the state of Illinois. You know what? There's less investments in vocational training and in regards to community colleges. We have divested all throughout the education cycle at the height of the growth of the Latino community. We need to reverse that. That is the biggest challenge that we have as Latinos, is to improve education from pre-K all the way to university. We are failing, we are losing ground, and at this rate, you know, we're at a point where we need to do something drastically, and we need to make it a point to the politicians, especially in Springfield, and our leaders and our governor, that you know what, we just can't take a piece of it. It's not enough for the crumbs, it's not enough for a small piece of the pie. We need a significant piece of the pie because we are the significant minority in the state. So education, no society can advance in history without being educated. 65% of all Latinos are not graduating high school in Chicago. That's an issue. Less than 1% of Latinos are graduating four-year universities. That's an issue. We have one of the highest tuition rates in the country. That's an issue for our public universities. Education, education, education. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for that introduction. And now we're going to go with the questions. All these questions were people submitted earlier in the different panels. And they're in different categories, many about health, education, of course that's a big issue, and also the driver's license, youth in poverty. And so I've been kind of distributed in different groups so I can ask those questions. This first one, it's about health. And this person asked, the Affordable Care Act is here and it's complicated to understand. There is extremely limited information for Latinos. What are you going to do to assure that facts are changed or they're done correctly and people understand correctly?
Well, one of the things that I've been doing in the last few weeks is that we actually have some people that are part of the Affordable Care Act team, and what I'm doing is I'm putting out, either on my Facebook or on my, on my newsletter, that we're actually having people come to our office, and getting signed up by these individuals. So I think that that's something that many of them are reaching out to us to host those type of gatherings, and help people get into the system and sign them up. One thing that I have to say, just when you hear all the news out there, 43 million people do not have health care. This is the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is something that was long overdue and needed, but we have to have patience. Like any rollout of any program, there's going to have its glitches, and God knows that some states have had some huge glitches, but other states are signing up people. People need to be very patient about how to get signed up, but if you call our offices, we are actually, I know that I am, and I think that Tony is too, having these signing up for the health care in our offices. So it's a matter of just reaching out to us, and we'll be happy to assist you in putting you in contact with the folks that have been assembled, that have been employed by the Affordable Care Act to come out to our communities and help us sign people up.
On the same topic, speaking about undocumented, they're afraid of reaching offices or asking questions. How can that be done for them?
I'm going to answer that question. I think that at this point, we cannot be shy about going to ask for help, because you're the taxpayer, and you pay our salary. So for us to be there for you when you need us, that's our job. So no one should be embarrassed to come and look for help, because that's why we're there. We're legislators. You voted for us to be there. We're your voice, and the services that are needed, we can answer for you. So please reach out to us. Don't be shy. Let us know. Come in. We're available to you. Our doors are open.
All right, the next question is about education and students with disabilities. How to get more Latino persons with disabilities in society to better themselves and others as well?
I'm trying to understand the question a little bit better, because we're talking about disability services, special ed in schools, or?
Probably, is this how to get more people with disabilities in society to better themselves and others as well? Programs for them, how to get jobs for them, better education for them?
Yeah, I said I'm the vice chair of the Elementary and Secondary Education Committee, and if it's a question about disability services or special ed, just to put things in perspective, when young kids go through the school system, the average cost, for example, one of my districts, School District 54, cost per pupil to put through school in 1 year is around anywhere from $12,000 to $50,000 a year. When it comes to special ed, we're looking close to $30,000 to $35,000 a year. So obviously there's something we need to address, is how do we fund schools for that. When it comes to dealing with issues of quality of life, I sit on the board for the St. Alexis Mental Health Center, and we have an issue. We have a bottleneck. We have a high demand of Latinos who speak Spanish. We have a different culture. We don't have enough psychologists or folks who can deal with that. So what happens is that we have to have folks translate. In this field, translating is not a good thing, folks, but that's the best that we can do. So we need to talk about those fields as well, have more young people get involved in mental health and disability services. The other issue that we have is we do have high-functioning folks with autism and other issues. In the suburbs, I know we're very lucky to have companies like IKEA. We have other companies that actually take these folks in to work. So it does give them that experience. That's overall. When you drill down and you look at the Latino experience, it's a big problem, and we don't talk enough about that. It's something when you talk about disability services, mental health, in the schools, or even afterwards, again, we just don't have enough people to serve that community. It's something that, unfortunately, is very dear to my heart. I'm glad the question came up, if I understood it correctly. We need to talk more about that and make that a bigger issue.
Can I also add?
Go ahead.
So, in the first, I don't think it's not known that we're rated at the bottom in terms of disability services already. We're starting off bad. And then on top of that, then you have a Latino population that the services are just not available. So it's just a double whammy when you think about it. So I think what I see and are looking to continue working is that we need to bring much more awareness to that problem, that Latinos are not being heard and the services are just not available. So it is upon us as a caucus to put that as a priority. Why? Because here you're not only at the bottom when it comes to disabilities, but now you have a population that is not even being heard. So there is no doubt in this area there's a lot of work to be done, and advocacy is going to be extremely important for us to be working with.
Go ahead, Senator Sandoval.
Just like to comment, I always like to remind folks that the federal government has been irresponsible in this arena. The Americans Disabilities Act is a federal piece of legislation. And some of you may know who your congressman is. Some of you may know who your congressman are, right? Well, you need to ask your congressman or your congresswoman, what are they doing in Washington to make whole and invest in the Americans Disabilities Act? They have divested, Congress has divested itself of people with disabilities. It is a pass-through from the federal to the state for providing these programs. And our Congress has been irresponsible in regards to funding, the Americans with Disabilities Act. In fact, they have made it even more restrictive. And so we only match what those that the federal government send us. So I implore all of you that if you know who your congressman is, that you should spend just a little time on issues like people with, disabilities, because they've been absent of this conversation, of this responsibility.
Okay. Now a question about still homelessness in schools. Lots of homeless in CPS schools. Poverty, drugs, underlying issues for many students. How can you help?
Let me start off by saying, one thing that we're very conscious of is what is going on out there when it comes to poverty and homelessness and the issues, the social economic issues that exist in our community, which then, affects our schools. When you look at us here, it's great, maybe many of you don't know, but each one of us today is a chairman of a committee. We have appropriations, we have chairmen of education, we have chairman of transportation, we have, chairman of licensing. We have chairmen at every level now. The 15 or 14 members of the Latino Caucus are all chairmen. And that just tells you the power that we basically have when it comes to appropriations, when it comes to, some of the bills that are very important. So, one of the things that we always, when we talk about education and dollars that are there, we talk about the homelessness. There's a lot of homeless children out there, and our job always, when that budget is put together at the end, we have to constantly go up and down that list to make sure that the funding is either kept the same and that we don't lose the dollars. When they talk about cuts, that we're going to cut some of these programs, many of us, and we've held the budget up a couple times because, we refuse to just say, oh, and yeah, it's okay. No, it's not okay. And we need to do also a better job of addressing the homelessness that exists right now in our community. Because, when a parent is unemployed or a family head of household is unemployed, guess what? If they can't pay the rent, they become homeless. The good thing about the Latino families are that we are very caring and loving. And if we have to have 10 and 20 members living in one household, we will do just that. But we have to address the bigger problem, and that is that we have to continue to fund the homelessness program that are out there, especially the children, and address the issue on children homelessness. That is something that is huge. As our population grows, so does that issue. And we are very conscious of it, and we're always keeping an eye on those line items of the budget.
Senator Sandoval.
Yeah, I'd like to take this moment just to kind of throw out there that poverty, education, and crime are all related. And we really missed the boat. We really missed the boat to this extent. Now, we've all been advocates of on the pro-immigrant agenda. We have done a phenomenal job on the immigrant agenda. But let me remind everyone that And we need to take care of them, and it's an issue, and we've done that. But let me remind everyone, for example, as an example, the driver's license for the undocumented. It's very popular to talk about this issue because it's glamorous. But there's only 350,000 undocumented in the state of Illinois of the 1.4 million Latinos in Illinois. 350,000 of them. Of them, maybe half of them will get their driver's license. Only half of them, maybe, right? So you were talking about maybe 150, 175,000 people out of 1.4 million people that are Latinos in Illinois. So what about the rest of the Latinos in Illinois when it comes to creating jobs, about providing access to education, about providing safe neighborhoods? We need to, as a caucus, and I challenge myself, we need to get back to basics. The majority of our constituents are not immigrant. We've taken care of them. It's important. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want to get nasty letters later that Sandoval's not, pro-immigrant. My parents were immigrants. They crossed the river and they got deported. I understand that. But you know what? Most of you in this room are not undocumented. Most of you are born in this country. And you know what? We have been very derelict in our duties in responding to your needs as it comes to education, fighting crime, safe neighborhoods, and giving you a great start to get ahead in life. We need to reset our agenda and start focusing on the majority of our constituencies, except on only just the minority. We've done it. I think we all get A's for taking care of the immigrant agenda. That's only a very small portion of our community in Illinois.
Thank you. Now this question somebody wrote, as an employee of the CFS and the Latino Advisory Committee member, I am very aware of the elimination of bilingual positions throughout the state over many years. How do you define the information? Sorry, I'm not wearing glasses today. On how decisions are made to allocate money to fill and create necessary positions. They want more positions, bilingual positions for that.
Okay, it's something that we've already have started the conversation on. I think we have mentioned to the state workers that in those departments that we need to hear from them, that when there's issues in the departments, you can't just keep it to yourself. You have to let us know early, because sometimes time goes by and then you don't let us know, and then we can't help you. If you don't tell us what the problem is, then we can't help you. You can call us, you can come to our office, you can send an email, but please communicate with us, because otherwise we don't know. We don't know what's going on in your department, and we need you to communicate with us, because it's very important. We're trying to do, so you just heard my colleagues here. We're juggling so many different issues that we're not the experts on. You're the expert on it, so you would be helpful to work with us and give us that information. And of course, if you let us know, well, please, can you just keep it between us? Because of course, we don't want to put anybody's job at risk. We want to help you, okay? Because we're helping ourselves and we're helping others in our state. So feel free to know that our doors are open for you so that you can communicate with us.
Representative Crespo?
If I can add on to that, in my appropriation committee, we have over 40 agencies that come before us, from the governor's office, state's attorney, Department of Revenue. And one of the things that I look at, and some of the other members, is what percent of the employees are minority, either African American or Latino. And in some cases, I look at some of these departments, and it seems like they're on purpose trying not to hire Latino. When you look at less than 1%, it just does not make any sense. So a couple things have to happen, and this is what they share with me. Number one, openings have to take place. So obviously, we need to know what those openings are. There's some union rules, and they will tell you that union rules sometimes complicate things as to how they hire or when they hire and who they hire. The third thing that I see as a Latino is we need to make sure that we have qualified people for those jobs. Believe me when I tell you, I work in my district sometimes when I am aware of openings, and for the life of me, I talk to these folks who are very well intended. I look at their resumes, they're lacking some of the skill sets that are required. We need to address that. And finally, and this is a pet peeve of mine, when people say we need more Latinos or more minorities in different departments. No, folks, we need more people who are bilingual. That's the key thing. I've seen folks that are like 8 feet tall, blonde, blue eyes with the last name of Rodriguez because their great-great-great-grandfather happens to have a Rodriguez name. Hey, I'm Latino. I need one of those jobs. We need Latinos to speak the language, make sure they're bilingual. That way they can provide the services. We have many agencies, DCFS is one, other agencies, that have a huge number of Latinos. They come to those offices, and here's what happens. Number one, they have to wait longer because they have very few people who speak the language. And unfortunately, those that do speak the language, those employees are working twice as hard for the same pay. There is something wrong with that. So again, it's a more complicated issue that we need to talk more about, but our jobs has, as the Senator had mentioned earlier, we share different appropriations. So it's great to have a generation where you have Latinos in a position of influence, that we can actually affect change. We need to know what those things are, but we need to make sure, familia, hay que prepararse, hay que estar preparado para esas oportunidades, y a veces es un poco difícil. Thanks.
Let me add something that's important to me, because I think that we should all know this. You know, one of the things that at least over in the Senate, you know, is these confirmations of these directors, you know. And we're looking more and more at these directors who now have been there 3 and 4 years, and when they come back for reappointments, what have you done for Latinos or Latino hiring, you know, within your department and during your time? So we're questioning that, and we've stopped already some nominations and some confirmations. Because you know what? We're serious about this. We're serious about, and the governor's folks know that we argue about the numbers. 4% of the overall state employees are Latinos. That is poor, unacceptable. And we are becoming more and more serious about making sure that those folks that have the ability to, you know, to hire more Latinos have not done it. Well, in our books, they're not going to get reconfirmed. Simple as that.
And then I just want to add one more thing. We work with our organizations. So we have IASE, the Illinois Association of Hispanic State Employees. You have to let us know. Okay, look, there is this opening, and it was Spanish speaking, and now the director's trying to change that. We actually worked, I think it was with DNR, to make sure that one of those spots was not taken away from a Spanish speaker. And so they were able to keep that open and put a Spanish speaker in there. But we don't know this stuff. You're at the front lines. You have to let us know. We also have the Latino Family Commission now. That was legislation that we all had to work on. And they got funding because everyone on this panel fought for dollars for them. So with them working together, they get us information and help us push forward on the agenda to make sure we have qualified Spanish speakers in the positions that we need them. Thank you.
Representative Hernandez wanted to say
I've
something.
been just trying to chime in a little bit because this is a discussion that has been occurring. And to put it real, you know, one of the major problems in this area is that the collective bargaining has really kept us from putting more bilingual speaking individuals. There is no doubt that the folks that are approaching, yes, we need more bilingual service, but that is part of the problem. What we are doing beyond, you know, the appointments, we have people keeping an eye and watch on those who are not just, we are just holding them accountable by holding their positions back. But what is occurring now is through the Illinois Family Commission, that I got to give them a shout out. Because of them, we are really getting it together, because they're the, yes, applaud, please. They are the drive, they are the experts there that are putting the pieces of the puzzle together for us and putting the recommendations. Currently, what has been talked about is language, the linguistics requirement. I'll give you just a good example. The Burgess consent decree is not being followed. They are not, this is DCFS, is not following that mandate. What are we going to do about it? So we have some already measures in place, but we need more. So the language area, the effects of the language is vital and needs to be implemented. And through the Illinois Family Commission, they're going to put the recommendations and possible legislations to make that happen. This is how we're going to force it. We're going to have to force those individuals to come in, meaning Latinos, more Latinos, bilingual speaking folks, through these kinds of measures and get them where they need to be. And that is services for our folks.
All right, we're running a little bit out of time, but I just want one more question. This is about pensions, and they say, what is the position of the Latino Caucus in protecting the existing pensions of current state employees and retirees?
I think we want to protect the pensions of only Latinos. I'm joking. That's a joke. Don't quote me on that.
It's being recorded. It's being
I
recorded.
know, it's just a joke.
Streaming live
It
in
was a
CAN
Latino
TV.
conference. But let me say this, and I know that many of us have been called and told to be ready to go to Springfield in December to vote on a pension bill that I haven't seen yet. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't think as a caucus we've taken a position. It's not my position to talk about that. I'll leave that to the co-chairs. I think each one of us will look at the pension and see what it does. Now, let me put things in perspective, okay? And when I talk to state employees, when I talk to teachers, and I have a lot of teachers in my district by the sheer nature of how many school districts I have, they're very upset, and they have a right to be upset. I get it. They didn't do anything wrong. But I ask folks too, and I think I'm a little bit more sensitive to this because I work on the budget on the House side, and when we're taking money off the top to pay for pensions, which we're supposed to, we're only left with so much money left for education, for public safety, and for a lot of other things. And it's really difficult for us when we're putting a budget together to say, decide who wins, who loses. You can only spend so much. If I put money in one agency, that means it's going to come at the expense of something else. That's the dilemma that we have. Mm-hmm. Now, some folks would say, well, we just need additional revenue. You know what? Maybe so. I don't know. We just have a bigger issue is that next year we have the income tax that went up a couple of years ago starts going away. So we're going to have more pressures. I'm not sure there's an appetite right now to raise taxes. I don't know. And these are the realities that at least I'm looking at and try to decide what am I going to do. But again, I haven't seen the pension bill. I've read things like everyone else has, but I have not seen a bill yet. I'm not sure what's going to be there. But I ask folks that, listen, I get it. People have a right to be upset, but please understand that we're making deep cuts. And when we talk about the cuts that we're making, we talk about education. And I'm sorry, folks, when we talk about public education, guess who gets impacted the most? Our people do. Mm-hmm. Our people do. When you look at some of our school districts, 60, 70, 80% Latinos, when we cut education, they get hurt. And unlike some other families, our families don't have the option of going somewhere else. So these are the things that we struggle with when we decide how we're going to vote on something. So, and please, I was just joking what I said earlier. It's just a joke. Una broma, por favor. Thank you.
It's recorded.
I think that as the chairman of the pension committee, and being involved with the pensions for the longest since I got there to Springfield, people all around, the world talk about the Illinois pension system and how generous we have been, over the course of time. I think what we're facing now is something that began 45 years ago, and when we talk about how generous our pension system has been up to now, we have to also remember that, we have to make sacrifices. The cost of health care has gone up tremendously from 45 years ago. So there's I'm a firm believer that a retiree that has a $40,000 or $50,000 a year, pension, and it's retired, they should not be touched at all, at all. I really believe that there are on a fixed income, but I don't care, and I'm not saying I don't care about but I don't care about those superintendents' salaries that retire at $300,000, $400,000. I am not going to feel sorry for them at all. But in saying that also, we do have to make sacrifices. We're going to have to pay in a little bit more. We're going to have to make some sacrifices that will at least prepare us, for our future when we're ready to retire. So we're going to have to do something. Another thing too is that when you look at our pension system and what has gone on, we are in trouble, and I think that Fred said it best. Next year, when the income tax expires, where is that money? How's the money going to be replaced? How are we going to now look at the budgets, as a whole and not count on those millions? And guess who is going to be the most affected when we have to cut even deeper, even a whole lot deeper? So we haven't seen the pension bill yet. We don't know what it looks like yet. However, we know individually, because it's a caucus, I don't think that we have to represent our districts, and many of us have school teachers, and state workers in our districts, that we have to make sure that they're taken care of. But that we're going to have to make that we have to pay a little bit we've already done pension reform. Starting 2 and 3 years ago, we already put some pension reform in place. We made sure that anybody coming in after 2011 does not have the same pension system that we have. So we're already addressing towards the future. But right now, my biggest fear, and I think many of us fear, that when that income tax will expire, if we let it expire, we are going to have a budget nightmare. And we're going to have even deeper cuts in services where I'm not even going to say cuts, we're going to have elimination of programs, which really we're going to see a very adverse effect in our communities if these programs are taken away from us. So,
How the programs can be saved,
Right.
just,
right.
how can they be saved? What can they do if they all part of a nonprofit organization who receive funding? What can they do to make sure they survived?
Also,
What would be-
revenue.
Yeah.
So you can't dismiss the fact that you are going to have to consider measures of other revenue streams. You just can't dismiss that. You're really going to have to take a good look at that. But when you combine pensions and possible, other, you have to look at other revenue streams, that equation is deadly.
So
Senator Sandoval wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think we can come up with a lot of excuses why we need to do what we need to do and why there isn't, my accountant says, I understand the credits, I understand the debits, but where's the cash? Well, there's $60 billion that is appropriated every year in the state of Illinois budget on average. And, it's going somewhere. I think it's god-awful that at the height of the growth of the Latino community in Illinois, when generations of public servants, Polish, Irish, German, Italian, have all benefited from a fabulous pension system, now it's our time to receive a pension. And you know what? We come up with excuses why these pensions are too rich. I'm going to hold my own there. It's BS. It's BS. Everyone has benefited from a great and robust and fair and just, as they define it, pension system. Today, it's not a just pension system. At the height of the growth of the Latino community, I will bet you on the 3rd or 4th of December, if we see a pension bill, it will pass through both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and your public pensions will be different in some shape or form. It is the flavor of the day. It's bad politics. I don't think it's right for any two-bit politician, including myself, to spend, after you've worked 30 years for state government, to decide, you know what, your pension's just a little too rich. Who am I to make that determination on your livelihood? It's wrong. Don't accept excuses. All it is excuses. Because you know what? We are trying to say, we did save Sears from leaving the state. And what did they do 6 months later? They left anyways. We just handed out some more corporate welfare not too long ago in Springfield. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to leave too. And you know what? Every day there are press releases out there handing out millions and millions of cash buyouts and to corporations to stick around. And you know what? They really don't care about us. They really don't care about us. It's like also akin to having a 30-year mortgage. You take out a 30-year mortgage, like most of us do, and then on the 29th year, your bank tells you, you know what? We didn't charge enough interest, so you're going to pay for another 10 years. That's wrong. That is wrong. And what you're hearing out of Springfield are excuses. It is what we need to do today because there is no other alternative, they say. So we're going to do it. It's painful. It's one of the hardest votes I'm going to take in Springfield during my 10-year career. I'm a little ashamed of it, but I don't know of anyone who's not going to vote for it. It's
Marty,
wrong.
Marty,
Okay,
I have a question. Do
Representative
you
Soto.
have an amendment to that bill?
Do I have an amendment? No, I don't have an amendment to the bill. I didn't create the process. I'm not on the committee. All I can tell you is I've got a greater number of public employees in my district, and the alternative should be, there should be an alternative, that we should grandfather everyone that's in the system today and start a new pension system going forward for everyone. Leave everyone who's been in government for at least 15 years alone and start a new program like they did in the federal government. In 1984, they started a whole new system called FERS, and they went forward. They didn't go backwards. We're going backwards. It's not right.
All right, it's
Alba.
getting heated now. That's good. All right, Representative
Alba,
Crespo.
you asked a question. I think we went off on a tangent a little bit, and it's a very key question. And you were asking the non-for-profits.
Exactly.
When it comes to issues of funding, what do we do? What do we tell them? And the sad reality is that, you know what, when we look at the next 2 or 3 years, we don't see more money coming into the state. We might see a little take, but not enough. And what I will tell the non-for-profits is that we're beginning to look more and more at performance. We're looking at budgeting for outcomes. So now when these agencies come before our committees, we're asking them, show us how do you add value. Don't just give me a report with a widget count. That's not important. Show us for every dollar that we give you, what do we get back in return for that? And some do better than others. An example, we look very closely at what percent of funds are spent on administration. I've seen agencies as low as 10%. Guess what? I like those agencies. I think I get a good return on the dollar. I see other agencies where I'm seeing close to 50% of the funds they get from the state are spent on administrative costs. That tells you that's the problem. They need to change that, otherwise they're going to lose out on this game. I'll give you a second example about performance. We have several state colleges in the state of Illinois, and it's not important which one, but we have some state colleges with four-year graduation rates, folks, of less than 6%. They measure it differently. They might come up with a higher number, but technically they're less than 10% four-year graduation rates. These are schools that we are funding. Now, you tell me, what kind of return are we getting on the dollars? So those are the questions that we're going to start asking the agencies as they come before the committee. And going to your question, Alba, about non-for-profits, is that they're going to have to take a close look at how they conduct business and how they make the case as to why they need the money and how we can get a return on that dollar. It's a paradigm shift for many, but that's what we started doing that a couple of years ago. And I know it's a challenge for many agencies, but that's the way of the future.
Well, thank you. We only have like 5 minutes left, and I just want to add a question. When I come, I came here almost every year to cover this event, and in my philosophy, when I write a story, it's always, if I learn something new today, my audience is going to learn something new today, and I feel accomplished. And my understanding for this event is people can reach your legislators and bring them ideas, and they can learn from you, and then eventually they can come up with a new bill or a new legislation. And my question for you is, how can because I see a lot of people from nonprofits and groups, how can they reach you? What is, when, for example, I pitch a story to my news director, I always try to come with an idea that is going to be attractive, and they're going to pick my story, and then I'm going to go do it. What do you tell them, to the audience here in this group, how to reach you and what to do in order to get your attention to do something about their nonprofit or any organizations that they're working on?
Good. Okay, go ahead.
You can go first.
We're going to go down the road because this is our last question. At least let me talk about I have, in my office, I always tell people, call the office and set up a meeting. I return all my phone calls. It's one thing that I do that I'm very, very, anal about. It's just that all phone calls need to be returned because people are calling my office for some answers. Second of all, there isn't an organization that I have not sat with in my community. You know what I mean? And they come in usually right around this month, next month, they want to talk about their legislative agenda for next year. That's what we normally, a lot of us do after session, after our 6 months being in Springfield, is we come back and we start meeting, because then we start talking about the following year's budget. So, I always say, give us a call, give me a call, and set up an appointment. It's real simple. The same thing is when they come to Springfield. They come to Springfield talking about their program and what they're doing. But as money gets tight, as money continues to get tighter, I tell organizations in my community, if you're doing the same thing, then get together, unite. Start, bringing some of the organizations into one, as opposed to having 5 doing the same job. Let's start, partnering with each other, because you're offering the same services. Then the money at least can be spread out even, I think, more. I think it's just important that, that as we look at these budgets, performance is going to be very important. What is the outcome of what you're offering, what you're doing out there? But more important is, we are your legislators. We are the people that create the public policies and create and work on budgets. You need to come to us, because at least for my office is always available 5 days a week, and I'm there in the mornings, and there's one day, of the week that I'm there till late hours, in case people need to see me after their job. So, I think many of us do the same thing, but I'm gonna let them, each say what they think.
Yes.
Representative Soto?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I know how hard Iris worked, and I think she knows how hard I work, because we're usually doing the same things. And when there's a not-for-profit that's reaching out to me and they want to continue maybe looking for funding for the future or for the next year, I ask them, well, set up an appointment, invite me to a site visit. You can come and see me, but then how am I going to know what you're doing? I want to go there. I want to see what you're doing. Then I'm going to call others and see how you're doing. I'm not only going to go there and see it for myself, I'm going to call other organizations that are in that same area, and you kind of hear about who's doing what. And yourself, if you're the legislator in that area that represents that community, what people are doing and what organizations are doing. Are they really helping people? Because that's why we put the dollars in these non-for-profits, because we need those services. I know they need those services. But anyway, our doors are always open. I've been saying that since I got here. Our doors are always open. You can pass through my office. If you see my car, they're parked outside in the front. I'll be on vacation next week, so don't do it next week. But for the most part, you can pass through my office, and you will see my car parked right in the front in the same spot, because I'm the first one at work. So feel free to reach out to us, and we will go out on a site visit and talk to you, and then we can continue a partnership. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all. I will, Representative Hernandez?
Just a recommendation.
Go ahead.
A recommendation would be, we all have our own ways, our own dynamic on how we respond to the nonprofits, but as a generalized, I would just recommend that you start with the committees. You know who sits on the committees that represent what your nonprofit is basically stands for or works on. So if you reach out to those committees and the members of those, that's where I would suggest you start, and start with your chairman, because that's the leading person. You can't get there, then you slowly go to your various members. Now, if it's more focused on Latino issues, then you look for the Latino members. I have my own way of how I respond, and as I think my colleagues here, but as a general, to try to get to the matter or the issue that your nonprofit, or just to kind of an introduction, it would be really a good idea. It's a recommendation that you do start with the committees at the General Assembly.
Okay.
Both on the
Representative
Senate
Crespo?
and the House.
Thank you. A couple of things. Keep in mind, and I think we can all say this, if you go to our office in Springfield or our office in the district, you should see the pile of information and flyers we get from all these agencies, not-for-profits. So something to keep in mind is there's different competing interests out there that we have to go through. It's something you have to keep in mind when you put something together. In my case, obviously, I'm always looking at performance, and I'm always asking the question, show me how do you run your business. let me know what percent to spend on administrative costs. One of the things that I would strongly suggest to those non-for-profits, if you rely heavily on the state, take a step back and look for other revenue streams. That's the only way you're going to survive. We've had many agencies already close the last couple of years because they depended a whole lot on the state. And the sad part is when you talk to some of these non-for-profits, listen, folks, I've been in office only 7 years. And one of the things that used to bother me, and it still bothers me a little bit, but not as much, is that this state, I can't speak for other states, but this state is run a lot by lobbyists. And unfortunately, many of our non-for-profits cannot afford a lobbyist, and we're very sensitive to that. So when we have these small agencies come before us, we definitely like to work with them. Find someone who believes in your cause. There's so many causes out there. In my case, if anything that has to do with mental health, domestic violence, education are things that I care about. So if someone comes into my office with those issues, I'm quickly going to pay attention, and I'll ask a question to see how I can help them. But it's a challenge. Keep in mind there's a lot of competing interests. I mentioned I've been in office 7 years. Prior to that, I was not involved in government in any way. I want to give a shout out to two of my relatives. My cousin Frank Diaz, who's been involved in these issues for a long time, and my other cousin Hilda Frontani is around here. Thank you for being here, and thanks for being good mentors for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Varys, I'm sorry.
As all of my colleagues have mentioned, we are always in our office. If it's one thing we pride ourselves on is that I want to say we are all full-time legislators. So it's not like we have another job on the side. We're either in our office, on a site visit, or door knocking. We are in our areas wanting to meet not only our not-for-profits, but also our individual constituents. We want to know what's going on in your area. So, I mean, various different ways. If you can't call us to try to get a meeting, send us an email. We all have email addresses. Most of us have Facebook and Twitter. Lots of us have our own web pages. So you can find our information and what's important to us online. So feel free to use all of those outlets because we do come together. We stand up for the issues that are important to us, and we all work together on them. So that was just a little something to veer.
Senator Sandoval.
Yeah, well, I'm very supportive of nonprofits. They exist all over my district, so be as it may. My only message to those of you who are thinking about starting a nonprofit or friends who are thinking about starting a nonprofit, if you come see me, it's very simple. I'm going to ask you for, if you want $1 of the taxpayers' money of Illinois, how many dollars are you going to put forward yourself? And that means, are you doing development yourself? Because the majority of nonprofits that I get who want to start up new nonprofits usually are just looking for a full boat from the state. Ain't going to happen. We need to see if you're going to survive in the nonprofit world in Illinois in the future, it's a different world today, you need to start doing your own personal development for your non-for-profit. And then number two, I only remind everyone who want to get into a nonprofit that it's been very disappointing over the last few years to see salaries of many of these non-for-profit executives. I understand it's a sensitive issue. I decided to get into public service because, I decided not to become a multimillionaire, gazillionaire, working on Wall Street and doing it. I decided to serve community. And I've been doing that for 30 years and raising children on a $63,000 salary or $70,000 if you're a chairman. That's what we make. If you're going to get in the nonprofit world and I see that you're, well over six figures, I'm going to start to question whether or not you're really into the community. Thank you.
Well, those are some people, but we don't have time now. Thank you so much for all the legislators for being here, answering all these questions. And if you guys have a question or want to pitch the story to me to do on Telemundo, so you can reach me at Twitter at Alba Mendiola. Thank you very much. And I also just want to thank, congratulate the students for the scholarships. And we're going to have now a little reception beginning now at 3:30 just outside the ballroom. Thank you again.